Hello and welcome back to the Self-Actualization in the Age of Crisis chapter summary series. I'm your host, Ron Rivers, and today we're going to be exploring Chapter 2, subsection Cooperative Competition. Now, I do want to take a moment to really emphasize specifically what self-actualization in the age of crisis is not. And that is to say that it is not an attempt to create a society full of equality of outcomes. And I want to stress why equality of outcomes is not only undesirable, it's also improbable and impossible to actually successfully complete. So let's start with the second component. Any formal equality of outcomes that are developed within an immediate present will represent the frameworks of meaning and value of those creating it in that moment. Therefore, it will always be inadequate for future moments, future time experiences, future generations, etc. So it's a moving target that can never adequately be satisfied. Second, equality of outcomes denies our material reality of living in a universe governed by the single truth and the relational universe. So what I mean by that is no amount of law or system can attenuate the difference between the perspective of the novice and the master, and nor should it, right? Part of our journey as individuals is the practice of active soulcraft, which is something we'll explore in a later section. But the idea that for those who are willing to dedicate and direct their focus and energy towards a specific point or vision over an extended period of time, they become it, right? That's the nature of the relational universe. They become part of that thing. So it doesn't make sense that we should assume that someone who is a novice, who has not put in the time and effort, should you expect similar outcomes. When I say outcomes, it could be most literal, like outcomes of their work, but also outcomes in terms of incentive or reward, right? We want to continue to incentivize people who go above and beyond in mastering their craft, because that is in many ways a framework for unleashing our imagination upon the universe. Now, what we want to do is we want to enhance cooperative competition through the essentially suite of social protections through our cooperative systems. And in other words, we want to elevate the individual where their access and agency is free from the bindings of the birth lottery they inherited, and they are able to kind of direct the flow of their time experience without resistance from the system surrounding them. One of our major challenges in the immediate present is that we apply the same frameworks of property and contract under a larger guise of law to all of our social verticals, right? And this goes alongside this idea of we exist within one singular market form right now in the immediate present in the US, right? This capitalism. And our objective is not to swap one system for another, right? The wholesale substitution of capitalism for socialism, as an example, is doomed to fail. What we want is the capacity to have multiple markets under multiple laws of property and contract operating simultaneously side by side. And that can be accomplished through legal corporate modules or through the wholesale development of new verticals. And to kind of further emphasize this, right? In the United States, our development of medicine and video games exist under the same laws of property and contract. Now, whereas for video games, we may say, well, entertainment is so multifaceted and variable that it really, the private model is really ideal for it because there's so many different permutations. Whereas medicine certainly shouldn't operate under a single private model of research, development, and distribution. It could easily benefit both in terms of its capacity to research and innovate, as well as serve the people it's intended to serve through a more collaborative system of competition where firms are kind of coerced or incentivized to kind of collaborate across firms, share research, open patents. And there's a lot more I go into the text about how we might still reward innovators within these new models. But I really want to emphasize that ultimately cooperative competition is about encouraging competition to a greater degree than is possible in the immediate present based on value provided, and diminishing competition in the form of nepotistic networks, inheritance, and monopolistic control of resources and innovation in tech. Cooperative competition at its heart is a system of self-organization that radically empowers imagination and innovation in a variety of degrees and directions not presently possible.